Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Chewy, good evening to you, sir. It's Monday and we're here. Crazy that we're here on a Monday.
Look, the chat's going off already, but you guys have got to be better on the spelling. Planner Walk here says, "What's up, Wokies?" No, I am a Wookie.
No, Wokies.
There's a difference.
Like Fox
Wookie.
News. Before we get going tonight, I've got a very special guest who's going to join us. A guest that a lot of you know about. I think I've cut our audience in half, Chewy, by removing this guest of recent times. But for those who know her, we'll say good evening to Nala.
Oh, he's Nala.
Hey. Psst. You right, mate?
The fuck you want?
Sounds like someone's got a text message. Yes, and for those of you who are new to us, Nala was always with us on most evenings, chilling out in the studio. But I had to move the studio around, and it changed the camera angle, and we couldn't get Nala on anymore. So
she is what you did.
I've got my phone down there, just murdering its battery, just to give everyone a little bit of a hello at the dog, to make sure we're accessing all that we want to access. Let's get rid of that. There we go. I don't know what's happening here. Are you controlling the chat or am I? What are we doing?
I am. I'm just going through the greetings.
Oh, all right. Greetings one, greetings all. We have got there we go. Stretchy, stretch. Oh, stretchy, stretchy, stretch. Oh,
big stretch.
Stretchy. Oh, stretchy, stretchy, stretchy. I do have an idea to readjust my cameras and put one down there on dog cam, but it hasn't been done for a very long time. So I thought I'd just, as I say, murder. Look how red my nose is. I've just had a shower. When you have a shower, large walkster, do you do shampoo and just scrub all the shit out of yourself? Look at my nose. I look like I've got
what did you use? Did you use a Brillo pad or something?
No, I just go everywhere and get rid of all this and Kim, that's
you
a
look
good
like
idea.
An old retired man that does his drinking down at the library and then goes home.
The truth is, Kim, George is actually in the other corner of the studio, curled up having a little sleep. But I don't have two cameras. So I can only show you one. Let's also say this now that we're here when we're into it, because we've got a lot to talk about tonight. We could have just bailed for the night and gone, oh, technical difficulties, night off, Chewy. But no, there is too much to talk about tonight. Have to get on to it. Huge thanks to all our patrons. Love having you on board. Thank you for being a part of what we do. We've had actually Peter, I think it is. Sorry, Peter. Oh, yeah, Peter Blakely also join up. I haven't got you on the board yet, Peter. I'll get that done tomorrow. It's been a very busy day, so thank you for joining up and being part of the team. If you want to be a part of the team, see, if you're a part of the team and you help us on Patreon, patreon.com/Big Hero News, maybe I'll send myself to get some training as to how to use the software. And if I do that, maybe I won't blow up the live stream ever again. So
no promises though, right?
It's a little bit of a shame actually, because tonight's show is now going to be a little bit impacted by that era, because the title of this video now says take two. I think it says take two, and I think in the description it says let's try that again. So I don't think we'll get many native meaning just finding us off the cuff tonight. I don't think that's going to happen. So you guys are getting a bit of an exclusive tonight. So Chewy, let me just get my thoughts back together. What was I missing when you were talking about stuff?
I was just padding for time while you were planning to pull the pin on the entire stream. I was just saying, I hope everyone had a good weekend. Now it's back to work. Only serious thoughts now.
We had Thursday night off. Really, really, really gratifying on Thursday night to see a whole bunch of you involved. Like I was thinking, if we weren't going to be here, that there'd be like four watchers of that episode, because we know that a lot of it has to do with, you guys to Guru, smart move to get a few ads in. A lot of what we do is actually like involving you guys, interacting with you. We understand that a portion of this is attractive because we're here and you're here and we all get to hang out together. So I'm glad you enjoyed the show on Thursday night, and I'm glad it was actually the most viewed show on YouTube of the whole week. So that was lovely to see. And so thank you for being involved with that. That was really good. And for people who are wondering, my girl fucking killed it in Rent.
I was just going to say, how did that go?
Amazing. And she got to play Mimi, the character Mimi, who's also the stripper and the pole dancer. That was my 16-year-old. But it was really good. It was really, really good. You know, it's a high school show, so there were some things that they could work on. But overall, that's where I started doing musical theatre, was in high school. And I think back to me as a 15 and 16-year-old doing hairspray. No, we didn't do hairspray. We did hair. We did Godspell. We did a bunch of that. Growing up in a Catholic boarding school, you know, it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
I did a lot of theatre in high school.
Yeah.
I hate musicals. It's fine if you love musicals, just not for me. And I remember my drama teacher trying to get us to do Godspell, and it was
Godspell's amazing.
Not for us. It wasn't. It was like a full mutiny. We're like, this is shit. We hate this. Can we do something else?
What, because of the God thing, or just didn't like it in general?
I just didn't like it. Didn't get it. Didn't gel with us. It was just, I think, yeah. Like I say, it was a mutiny. We loved our drama teacher, Elizabeth Grubb, up in Te Reo. But this was one time where we all just put our foot down and went, this is not for us. No, thank you.
This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. That was here, by the way. I'm just putting a tweet out because people are messaging me going, where have you gone? Sorry for the dump team. New link here. Here. Come say hi. Boom, boom. There we go. I'm just tweeting that out right now and sending it out. Yeah, done. Oh, very cool. I do love musicals. I'm a big fan. Some people think they're the lowest form of theatre. I think if you think that, you're an asshole. And you can get the fuck out.
Hey, I didn't say that. Just said not for me.
No. I do like a musical in general, though. You know, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's funny. It's funny what happens, actually. Like, my dad went to the same boarding school as me in the late 50s, and I went in the 90s. And he was very much about HMS Pinafore, Gilbert and Sullivan. That was his world. Whereas, you know, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was all about, you know, Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice, and they were sort of mine. And now that my kids are going through the same thing, they're like Lin-Manuel Miranda, and they're like Jonathan Larson, and they're all these people. So it's really interesting to see the teams that you've grown up with and gone through. So, yeah, it's very, very cool. So it's good to have you all with us again tonight. And I'm very pleased to be back. And I can see, Liz, you're with us. Who says she can't hear anything, Liz? You might want to, she can't hear anything. She can't tell anything. Try us on YouTube. I'll put the tweet out there. We'll see how that goes. All right. Sorry again, team. We've got a bit of a quorum now. We can get back into it. And let's get into it with the Labour Party. In my opinion, the most uninspiring non-announcement from their weekend. This was billed as their first election policy. And what was it? Sort of a status quo. I don't know how you can claim it as a policy, but it was along the lines of, we'll just keep what we're doing. So in other words, the policy is to change nothing.
Labor's promising if it wins the next election, the age of eligibility for superannuation will stay at 65. The pledge came as the party went into political attack mode at its annual conference.
True. Lots of attacks in the weekend. Interesting.
A public poll revealed National and ACT in front. We'll hear more about the election jibes from political editor Jessica Mackay, but first, her report.
Welcome to the election campaign.
Today, Labor is drawing a line in the sand. Unlike National and ACT, today I am confirming that we will not be lifting the age of eligibility for New Zealand superannuation.
Maori and Pacific have a lower life expectancy, and experts say it's...
So I want to debate this a little bit, but the idea that our first policy announcement is there will be no changes feels like a bit of a swing and a miss. You know, it's like, I guess technically it's a policy, and the policy is we're keeping it as, so they have to write something for it. Well, I guess they don't have to write something for it because it's already done. I just felt it was a bit of a, you know, if you're going to come out for like the first election policy, I would have liked to have seen something inspiring, something new, something courageous. And it is like, no, we're just not changing anything. Same old, same old. That's the first one. So I don't know. I feel a little bit blah about it. I mean, obviously there's lots to come, but I just thought for their party conference, for their big weekend, for the launch of it, it was a bit meh sort of thing.
I mean, it's good.
Yeah. Well,
it's good. It's just not exciting.
Yeah, it's not exciting, and it's not actually a policy. It's not a policy change, at least. I mean, every other party is bringing out what they would do, and what Labor has said is this is what we've done, and they continue to do so.
Hard slog for those in physical jobs.
We know that there are many people that don't arrive at age 65 in great shape, and they may not be able to continue to work.
But National's campaigning on raising the age to 67 by 2044.
Chris Hipkins is hypocritical Hipkins because he campaigned in the past on raising the super.
It's a fair criticism. Fair's fair.
That's also a sick nickname.
Yeah,
I'm going to give him that one.
all right. But fair's fair. You know, that's what he was absolutely. He has said it in the past. It needs to raise, and when they're not doing quite so well in the polls, all of a sudden, I don't know, we're not going to change it. It's a completely fair criticism.
Age. He knows it is the responsible thing to do economically and fiscally and socially.
Can we really afford this?
As long as we keep investing in the super fund.
She says 30-year-olds will suffer when
Wrong
they reach
answer.
retirement.
Wrong answer. Chloe Swarbrick will explain the right answer shortly. It's got nothing to do with as long as we keep investing. It is where is the money going to come from to pay for an aging population? How is it going to be invested? Where is it coming from? And I think we all know about the kinds of taxes that need to come into this country, but we'll let Chloe explain that shortly.
Under National and Act.
If you're a young person, I have to say this to you. The coalition of cuts will take more than $98,000 off your retirement.
If you're 30 and you're earning the average wage, under Act you'd be over $80,000 better off before you retire, thanks to our tax cuts.
It's a hot topic.
I don't think we should raise it at all. I don't think people should be forced to keep working beyond this particular age.
I think 65.
And when, you know, in all honesty, it's probably a good idea.
To put it up.
I'd say so, yeah.
Labor has switched to campaign attack mode after our One News poll 2 days ago showed National and Act in front.
It's like they're the most rubbish Marvel comic ever invented. Chris
Not
Luxon
comedy.
as Captain Cliche,
Don't try to do
and
comedy.
his sidekick David Seymour as reverse Robin Hood. So
I don't think Grant Robertson understands that Robin Hood is not a character from Marvel, but, you know, maybe that's just me.
Be warned, everything is at stake.
I think the Labor Party is running scared.
MPs reckon the poll's a good wake-up call.
Voters are going to are still making up their minds.
I think Chippy's really connected with Kiwis over the last few months since he became the leader. I think he's got a sparkle in his eye.
Elections like 2020 don't come around very often, and this one's back to a good old-fashioned MMP election, and we've got to be in it.
The party faithful have some advice.
Connecting with our communities, grassroots type.
I think a lot of people are very frightened about a National Act government, and I certainly am.
There's also a bit of nervousness, obviously, for any close election that's there, but there's a positive feeling.
Nervousness that's only going to ramp up.
There you go. So a couple of things, Chewie, and I think maybe you and I will have a slightly different position on this from the sounds of our banter, is that they're right that the retirement age can't stay at 65 if the tax code stays as it is right now. Right? That there's a caveat to that. So either the tax code has to change or the retirement age has to go up. Those two things are like keeping the tax as it is and the age as it is incongruent. You can't do that. So either tax has to go up or age has to go up. Now, Labor at the moment is talking about not adding any taxes, nothing like that, and keeping the age at the same. So actually, there's lots of criticisms at the moment which are fairly laid at the feet of Labor over this, Chewie.
Yeah, like a lot of these things, they try to boil it down to it has to be one thing or the other, right? We have to, if we're going to afford any retirement age at all, we've got to put it up to 67. Or if we're going to keep it where it is, then we need to keep paying into the super fund. But it is other things as well. It's changing the tax brackets. It's making sure that the wealthy are paying their fair share, which, as we've discussed on the show before, they are not.
Yeah.
By and large, like all of these things that we want are things that we have had in the past and are things that we can have again if we stop buying into this bullshit that for the economy to work, the rich must be left alone. It does not work.
Here's an interesting stat for you as well. This is an interesting stat to add to the debate, right? The age has been 65. It would have got raised incrementally to 65 starting in 1991. In 1990, average life expectancy in New Zealand was 76. So that if it was 76, right, that means if you retired at 60, that's 16 years. Average life expectancy today is almost 83, 82.8. that means if you retire at 65, you've actually got, what's that, 83? That's 18 years, potentially. So actually, we, meaning society, is better off today. We have a longer, according to the stats, I know people die young, and I'm down for all of that, but according to the stats, we live longer post-retirement today than we lived post-retirement when it was 60. Now, it also means, and I've heard the Commissioner of Retirement talk about this several years ago, if you raise the age over 20 years, in 20 years' time, you probably will see no difference in the life expectancy post retirement age increase as to today. So, for example, if they raised it over 20 years or 15 years or whatever, up 2 years, in that same time period, our life expectancy will have gone up by 2 years. So, therefore, it's a little bit of a zero-sum total. You know, there's not a big difference with the numbers. Just to put that into this conversation as well. We can look as well now as what I think it was this morning on breakfast. Chloe and Rimmer were on the show, and the question was asked. I thought this was going to be a quick clip, like 2 or 3 minutes. They actually go for a full 5 minutes, which was quite a lot on TVNZ or News Hub to put towards this. And the thing about it is, I don't think either side, both sides are correct and both sides are wrong, because I think there needs to be a way to pay for an aging population, and the current system won't do it. So either the system needs to change, and I guess what I'm putting out there is, you know, and I think Chloe does as well, you know, it's capital gains tax, it's wealth tax, it's those sorts of things, or we put it up. To me, that seems quite an easy thing to do. And also remember, if we put it up by 2 years, over 20 years, there won't be much of a difference between retirement age and life expectancy. Now, they're just numbers. I understand that there's going to be an emotive response to this, and I am perfectly happy to keep it at 65. But I think that it's a broader conversation than just, it needs to go up because we can't afford it, and it needs to stay where we are because of the vulnerable. It's a more nuanced conversation than that. Do you want to say anything before we push play, Chewy?
No, go. Yeah, hit it.
All right. So this is the direct question from Anna Burns-Francis.
Would you raise the age of super?
No, it's not Green Party policy. And I think actually, again, if you're to look at the data, what we have is amongst the lowest rates of elderly poverty in the developed world as a result of universal superannuation. If we want to deal with the issue of the cost of super,
she's very hard to argue
looking
with,
at our tax
just
settings,
quietly.
because we know that if you want to reduce bureaucratic and administrative costs, the best way to do that is to universalise and make these systems work better in the first place.
Well, look, we've said consistently the age has to rise, and I know it's not always popular, and there'll be people saying, don't you dare, but the truth is that while Labor and National swap positions, you know, when Labor's in opposition, they say that they'll raise it, then in government they won't. National and government said they won't. Now they're in opposition, they say...
And that's true. That's exactly what both the major parties do.
America, Britain, Australia, Germany, Israel, Ireland, Italy, Spain, I mean, practically Taiwan, practically the whole developed world recognises that people are living longer and longer, they're healthier, people are working longer, and they're also having fewer children, so there's less taxpayers to actually pay the tax. Now, that gives you a simple mathematics that nearly every...
So he's made a comment that we can test. Practically the whole of the developed world. So here is the whole of the developed world and their retirement ages. He's wrong, because if you actually have a look, there's where 65 kicks in. Right, and this is just, I've listed this in order of ages, so that at the moment there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 countries in the world whose age is higher than 65. So that's not practically the whole of the developed world. No. So that's flat out wrong. Now, that doesn't take away from the debate, but we want to be accurate that what he just said is either a lie or he doesn't have the facts. And if you have a look at the 65 and below, these are all 65 and below. You know, you can see when it says 63.83, what that means is Czech Republic is in the throngs of raising it to what, I'm not sure. But at the moment, 62, there's 60, you know, Indonesia's 58. So he's not accurate with what he's saying, just to be clear about the whole of the developed world is basically in agreement with this idea. It's not the case, not according to the numbers at least anyway.
Every other country recognises, and yet no other political party in New Zealand will. In our alternative budget, we increase the age of eligibility for superannuation by 2 months a year. That means that someone who's currently 60 would get super not in 5 years, but in 5 years and 10 months.
A lot of those countries you talk about do have a wealth tax, though.
Here's the conversation.
Well, no, they don't.
Well, at least the comprehensive capital gains tax.
No, they don't.
Three of them.
Some of them have capital gains taxes. That's true. However, if we buy into your logic, and I don't, but if we buy into your logic, then you would think that they would be able to afford super at 65. They don't, and that is all the more reason why New Zealand needs to get with that program. But unfortunately, there's no other political party that has the courage to say things, even when they're unpopular.
They're just so courageous, HOE. You know, the way they fight for the little guy, and
so
they take all those,
brave.
they take all those risky positions that needs an amount of bravery and stuff to do it. They never do the populist thing, just dog whistling to their audience, but they're so brave, so special, so brave.
Facts don't add up. We need to change, and it's actually going to be easier if we start making the change earlier than if we wait and wait and wait and say, if only someone had the courage to say that 5 years ago.
How do you balance out the inequity then? Because I think, you're
Great
probably going to
question.
be fine to keep working a couple of years. You'll be fine. I'll
Great
be fine.
question.
Other people won't. Māori life expectancy is much lower than mine as a Pākehā woman. How do you balance out the inequity?
Well, first of all, that argument applies now. So in theory,
that doesn't make it right, though.
So maybe.
So that response to that argument implies now, basically what he's saying is, so fuck it. It applies now, so we don't worry about it. That's what that means.
There should be, a lower retirement age for men. I mean, women live longer. People in the South Island actually live longer. People at
Are you
different
advocating
jobs.
for some of these changes now? Then you're saying the system isn't perfect now.
What I'm telling you is that each person has.
One of the differences there, though, and this is something that you'll never get ACT to actually agree on, is that we don't have a binding contract with people in the South Island. We don't have a binding contract between men and women. We have a contract between the Crown and Maori. So even if all of those information is technically correct, we don't have a binding agreement with South Islanders. Therefore, they have to be included within legislation. Although they should be, shouldn't they, Joey? All South Islanders. But do you know what I'm saying? That's the difference. The difference is there is an agreement with Maori, an agreement that many would say has not been lived up to, and that actually does apply differently to other subsets of New Zealand. That's why we don't typically, when we're talking about this sort of thing, we don't typically reference, Asian life expectancy in New Zealand. We don't have a binding contract with, China's mainland or ancestors of Japan or ancestors of the Philippines. We do with Māori. So therefore, we have a contractual arrangement that works through government, so we need to include that contract signee, signatory, if that is a word, in the legislation we're making. And he'll never accept that, but I'm just saying bluntly, that's the difference. That's the difference. Play for me.
As choices about how they live their life.
Not all of them are choices.
You want to put
circumstance dictates your choices.
You want to put people into categories, and I'm just showing you how absurd it is. In theory, there could be a different type of superannuation age for every demographic type of person. Well, the truth is that that's a nonsense, and you don't want to take it where it leads.
There's already a category, your age.
The second thing is, no, there's one age you want to categorise.
But that's a category. The category is you have to be over the age of 65.
No, the categorisations that you're talking about, your ethnicity, your gender, maybe your work type or whatever.
This is actually quite interesting. You don't see David Seymour flustered very often. He's flustered here. He's like, you're saying, and Anna Burns Francis hasn't said anything. She's asked a couple of questions. And remember, this is also the party and the part of the political spectrum that goes, they're just questions. Why are you pushing? We've got the right to ask questions. They're just questions. And she's asking him really fair questions, especially because if society's only as strong as its weakest link, we do need to think of the vulnerable. And we do need to go, how will this legislation impact the 10% at the bottom, however you want to word it? And he's flustered. He's flustered in this, and his response to being flustered, she hasn't been aggressive, they're perfectly valid questions, is basically him on some level going, well, you're saying this, and she's like, no, I'm not, and she's not. But you don't often see him flustered, and I think I get the vibe that he's fairly flustered in this conversation, Chewy.
Yeah, I've seen that from him before. He'll go on the attack, whether it's a warranted attack or not. And when it's not deserved, when it is something that hasn't been said, it sticks out like nobody's business. You don't see it often. He doesn't let himself get cornered in this way very often, or he doesn't have an interviewer that is able to corner him in this way.
But this isn't even a big corner.
You love to see it though.
This is even pretty simple. This is the thing that's interesting, is that he hasn't really been trapped. He's just been asked obvious questions. If we raise the age, what about the vulnerable? That's really the only question. That's not a gotcha. That's a really simple question. And yeah, people are mentioning the word flustered. Yeah, he's flustered in this.
Making the point that nobody is seriously talking about categorising people.
So you wouldn't deal with the inequity.
Just like
so you wouldn't deal with the inequity.
And no party seriously suggesting that they would, except for the Maori Party, who make everything about race. I'm saying that the current age is unsustainable, and the issues of categorising people and putting people into boxes, I think people have had enough of that. Each of us are human. Each of us have choices and chances in life. The question for New Zealand is, are we going to have a superannuation scheme that is sustainable, that gives younger people a fair go, or are we going to try and be a global outlier, despite being poorer than many of those countries I mentioned, tax young people harder and see them off to Australia, where, by the way, the superannuation age is being raised to 67?
I don't know that they deal with their Indigenous equity all that well either, David.
Well, with the greatest of respect, I mean, what's that got to do with it?
Well, that's what we're talking about, the whole fact that there is an inequity in the system.
What's that got to do with it is that was the question you were asked. That's actually, even if you don't think it does, the question you were asked was about that, so that's what it's got to do with it. And as I said before, he's flustered because it's a really fair question, and ACT has no response to that, because if you start talking about how do we look after the vulnerable, you immediately have to go into who's vulnerable. You immediately have to go into why they're on the bottom of the pile and all these stats. You immediately have to acknowledge Maori, for example, are disproportionately negatively impacted by these things, like life expectancy, Chewy.
It's the thing that ACT, they try to cling to this, right? Oh, it's equality. It's equality. Everybody's treated the same. Yeah, everybody's treated the same, and there's absolutely no consideration given to anything else apart from everybody gets treated the same. Now, how many times would you go out and, one size fits all actually fits all?
Yeah.
Here's the one dinner that you can have. Do you like it? It's the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
Many people love this meal. Why don't you love this meal? Well, I guess you'll starve and die then. This is the big thing, that equality is not everything that's cracked up to be, because life is not equal.
Yeah, and the thing that
equity
that Ella Byrne Francis, whatever her name, Byrne Francis, what's her first name? Anna Byrne Francis said quite clearly, was that he pushed past all of her points. And there were some good questions in there that he was just pushing past. And at the end, she just basically said, so you wouldn't deal with inequity? And he said, well, no. Yeah. At least he's honest. The other thing that's kind of fantastic about this conversation is it does draw a line in the sand pretty clearly. A vote for National is a vote for raising the retirement age. A vote for Labor is a vote for keeping the retirement age where it is. So it does make a good demarcation line for people when it comes to their voting. I missed the chat, but there was someone in the chat that just, there we go, Peter. And he's right. Chloe is looking very comfortable. And I think we've got about 60 seconds to go on this conversation. We'll basically let her wrap it up, shall we? Chloe's last part of this conversation.
And again,
but you seem okay with it.
If we're to reflect on the broader context, and that being our economic rules and setup, it is the case that we are an outlier
he even looks
internationally with
uncomfortable
regard to not having a capital gains tax, inheritance tax, or wealth tax, or any other form of taxation, which also seeks to deal with some of those intergenerational inequities. So fundamentally, I think that the problem should be actually addressing our economy and our tax settings, and then we can actually start to put in place rules that enable us all to live far better, healthier lives in the first place. And when we're looking at the superannuation age and whether we should raise it or otherwise, what is the point of us developing and evolving as a society, of us having these productivity gains or otherwise, if we're only going to continue working longer and longer for more hours?
There you go.
Queen! Yeah. Just call it. Just give her the crown. That's all I'm like. Oh my God. Every time she's not on camera in that interview, I feel like she's going to come over the back of that couch with a steel chair.
Yeah, I was just thinking off the top rope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look,
she is so good at this stuff.
Yeah. And I wonder if she would be if she wasn't in the Greens, I wonder if she would be earmarked as a future Prime Minister. She won't be as a part of the Greens. But there's even, look, there's lots of politicians that you can disagree with their policies, but you can see the quality of them as orators, as politicians, what they're doing, clear, concise, etc., etc. She's one of them. She really is. And what Peter said in the chat looks so comfortable. She probably looked comfortable because both Anna Burns-Francis and herself were kind of dismantling David Seymour. But it's always it was very, very interesting. Is there anything in the chat we want to get to before we move on? Because we've actually got a few other stories.
Yeah, Ro just made an interesting. Close your eyes and listen. She sounds just like Jacinda, just faster. And yes, she does sound like Jacinda 2.0, and I think that's a bloody good thing. Yeah, I like Chloe a lot. I think she's got hopefully a long career in politics ahead of her, and hopefully she gets some wins on the board. DIY Guru, David Seymour's reckon of increased personal wealth after tax cuts doesn't include additional cost of public service cuts.
Right.
So, sure, you get all of this tax back, apparently from David Seymour's magical money tree, from not getting taxed. But of course, do you have to go into private healthcare? Are our hospitals falling over? Can the country no longer afford preventative health care? Will you die before your retirement age anyway? These are the things. Like it's whenever Seymour is talking, it sounds wonderful, doesn't it? On a personal thing, you personally don't have to pay as much tax. You personally don't have the government coming up with rules for you. This wonderful libertarian society. It doesn't describe how everything else is falling down around you.
Yeah.
You can live in a lovely libertarian society where no one comes to pick up your trash and you're on your front doorstep with a gun because there's no police. That's libertarian.
Jack reckons maybe PM anyway. She'll never be PM if she's with the Greens. It's not going to happen. Unless some multiverse in the future, Labour needed the Greens to get in, and Greens had enough sway even as a minor party to have. Maybe deputy PM would be about as high. If you're a Green Party member, that's about as high as you would ever get. I like what Emma says. I wish I could bring Chloe along to all my family barbecues.
Is it that the metric for a prime minister though?
Have a beer.
Would you go to a barbecue with them?
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Look, I think just before we move away from this, these interviews with ACT and the Greens, they are so important. We are going to hear about preferred prime minister. We're going to hear major party policies or lack thereof all the way through. But it is these two parties that are going to decide who the government is.
Yep.
We all need to pay a lot more attention to what Rimmer is saying.
Yeah.
And give a lot more credence to what Chloe is saying. Because it's those policies, it's the ones that they hold really close that they're going to go, well, we'll support you for government, but this pet project has to come in.
And there are conversations that we've heard from people saying Rimmer wants to be the Minister of Finance. So put that in your pockets, mate.
Good God.
And listen, we're about to get on to another story, which I don't know if you know this, Chewy, but there's been sort of breaking news after we released the show and before we started the show. The other thing to remember is not to spoil it here, but when a party U-turns on something, you have to remember that their core belief is still what it was before they U-turned. And you could say the same for both sides. I think Chris Hipkins' core belief is raising the age, right? But I don't think there's the ability to do it from sitting on the left right now. Right, fair? Now, let's have a look at this story that came out in the weekend to do with the National Party. And I've put in the, it's so funny. I put in the chat that national voters are fucking morons. The truth is national voters are fucking morons. So says Simeon Brown. That's actually the full situation. Simeon Brown, if you're a voter for National, Simeon Brown thinks you're a fucking moron. So stupid that you can't figure out where you are in the world based on a Maori word being put on a road sign. On Monday, Waka Kotahi said its He Tohu Huranui Maori bilingual traffic signs program was going out for public consultation. In a transport meeting yesterday with Mbayapuni, National spokesperson Simeon Brown said introducing the language to road signs would make them more confusing and they, quote, should all be in English. He thinks his voters are too stupid to figure this out. The Maori Party co-leader says National Party should go back to school if it thinks including Te Reo Māori on road signs is confusing. If successful, the program would include Te Reo Māori in motorway and expressway signs, destination signs, public and active transport signs, walking and cycle signs, general advisory and warning signs. Te Pāti Māori co-leader Debbie Ngāwepaka said having the language included on road signs will help those in process of learning Te Reo. This is an environment where there's more non-Māori learning reo than we have ever had in the history of Aotearoa. It's important that we embrace our nationhood, including our Indigenous people and our language. We spent a long time trying to make sure we don't lose our language. So having our culture in our roads and not just about helping those who are helping those who are fluent Māori speakers, but also those who are in our education system, learning reo, and can see it reflected around their environment. Now, I'm going to place an item. I think this is actually from today's news, I believe. Is it today's? Yeah, it's from today's news. The story has changed quite quickly, right? Because it's not actually what they're suggesting. But just listen to the language that the National Party is using in this story. Listen to what they're saying and just think about, mid-2000s, Don Brash, Orewa speech. Think Donald Trump, think the kind of language that's used about an Indigenous minority and the way that National Party MPs are speaking about this, about having a sign that says Havelock North, but also has the Māori place name as well. So if you can't speak Māori and you don't know what this is, it still says fucking Havelock North. I think that I find this quite terrifying, the kind of language that these National Party MPs are using. I want you to hear it too.
Aye, this is over the bilingual road signs in Te Reo Māori and English, which Waka Kotahi want to roll out. The idea is out for public consultation and would see old road signs replaced with the new bilingual road signs as and when needed. So it is low cost and it's part of a government effort to increase the amount of Te Reo Māori that's in everyday life.
So let's just make this really clear that if you're listening to the audio podcast, you won't be able to see this, but every single sign here has both English and Māori on it. Right?
And symbols. Symbology is there as well.
Yeah. So like Winston Peters will make a big deal about this, about having Māori on place names and on signs in hospitals and stuff. But if you speak English and that's all you understand, every single sign is still readable by you.
National's transport spokesperson Simeon Brown has taken issue with the road signs, saying, and I quote, "We all speak English, so they should be in English." And today the Prime Minister took a mighty big swing.
Well, the current leader of the National Party tried to trademark Kia ora. So I'm not entirely sure where they're going with that unless it's just an outright dog whistle.
This is just what Chris Hipkins says whenever anyone says anything about Te Reo in this country. Apparently you're not allowed to have a genuine conversation about how we can take this country forward and talk about Maori from the National Party without literally being accused of dog whistling. I mean,
if anybody out there knows of a body language expert, I would just love to get them to look at this clip from Chris Bishop. Because I don't know about you, but the swaying and the shaking of the head, it looks, I don't know. I play poker. There's not such a thing as tells when people play poker about what they do. It's more about the patterns. But there is something, looking at how he's acting when he's speaking, that feels very disingenuous with what he's actually saying. I could be wrong, but I would be interested to know. Let's have a look again.
This is just what Chris Hipkins says whenever anyone says anything about Te Reo in this country. Apparently you're not allowed to have a genuine conversation about how we can take this country forward and talk about Maori from the National Party without literally being accused of dog whistling. I mean, I just think it's...
Simeon Brown's road rage at the road signs is not in isolation, and it should be noted that the signs are bilingual, so are in English. But over the recess, National MPs have been out hitting the regions and hitting the public meetings. And at one meeting in Auckland's North Shore last week, National leader Christopher Luxon said he had a problem with the level of Te Reo Māori used in government departments. And with the election race this close, it's clear that the National Party has decided that race relations and populism are on the table if it gives them a shot.
Now, Mihi, Amelia.
So there you go. In other words, if we can dog whistle, we will dog whistle. Now, Chewy, here's the thing. 6:30 tonight, right, before he came on, Te Reo Māori road signs supported by National, says MP Chris Bishop. PM Chris Hipkins accuses party of dog whistle. 6:30 tonight. This came out, 6:41 to be precise. National has backed down on its opposition to bilingual road signs, with senior MP Chris Bishop now stating the party supports them in principle. To be fair now, I knew this before I said that thing, so I wonder if I just had my own little moment of bias thinking about him not believing what he was saying when he was doing this. I didn't put two and two together, but it does sort of line up now that I've said those two things. Bishop today clarified that National did actually support bilingual signs, but wanted more focus from Waka Kotahi on fixing potholes and upgrading our roads. If they want to have bilingual road signs with Te Reo and English on them, that's fine. You've got his permission, Waka Kotahi, that's fine. But we just don't think it's a particularly good use of resources right now. That's not true, because that's not what you fucking said, National. You didn't mention resources once. You said, and I'm not going to quote it because I'll get it wrong, we all speak English, they should be in English. That's what you said. Don't walk it back with this bullshit right now. He said, however, it was very important that English was extremely prominent because that's what the vast bulk of New Zealanders understand. So we've got no issue. with bilingualism. Well, you did 20 minutes ago, sir, but we just don't think it should be the priority of the Transport Agency right now. And just to highlight the amount of disdain these National Party MPs have for their voters, very good cartoon out today. And in fact, the best one is actually this one right here. Gentlemen, if you're listening, gentlemen standing outside the sign that says Havelock North, and I guess it's Karanema, saying, where the fuck am I? Because it's got a Maori word on it, so how would he know where he is? Of course he knows. What do those hieroglyphics even mean? Says another person. Can I move this across? I'll go back down again. What's next? They'll rename our babies. I won't let them name him Wiramu. So it is, and I wonder if National backing down so quickly like that is just an absolute example of dog whistling. They've put it out there, and they really have no comeback now. It didn't go well when they ran it through their populism meter, maybe their PR company.
I mean, I love it when they couch things with like, oh, we just think that Waka Kotahi should just concentrate on the potholes. As if they just have one pot of money that is like, well, we can do one thing. We can replace the signs bit by bit, or we can do the potholes, but we can't do both. For some reason, we're utterly incapable of doing two things at once. They've stressed that it's like, we're putting this out for public consultation. You can go and look for it, by the way. You can put your own submission in, and I recommend you do, because these guys definitely are. They're making sure that the public knows what's going on, as they should.
Right.
And in some parts of the country, they need to replace a lot of signs. So what a good opportunity to do that right the first time. But I also want to put this in context of some other things that were said today. There's an excellent, I think the Spinoff has an article about what they're calling National's bowling club meetings, where they're having community meetings, come and meet the candidates, that sort of thing, in the middle of the day at bowling clubs. And they're just pandering to an older audience that find all this Maori to be really confronting.
Right.
And I feel like if they are going to be listening to this group, so it's just going to be a massive leap forward. Like, Te Reo has come leaps and bounds. Like, you couldn't have anywhere near what we've got now, even 10, 15 years ago. Like, people are starting to realize that this is a key part of modern New Zealand culture. You know, we are not just an English-speaking country.
What happened the other day when we were in Ponsonby that your mate was talking about? Because I said there's 3 official languages in New Zealand. English,
no, there's
Māori.
only 2.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's English, Māori, and New Zealand Sign Language. And what did he say?
That there are only 2. There's Sign and Te Reo.
Because
English is assumed, but
English
it's
has
not
never been
enshrined
written
in
into
law.
So it's never been written into law. So actually, technically, New Zealand has 2 official languages, Maori and New Zealand Sign Language.
But when it comes to road signs, right, a really important part of road signs is making sure it does not matter what language you speak. Can you understand the sign? I've been lucky enough to travel. And if you've ever been in a position of being in a railway station in the middle of Europe where the signs are in Dutch, German, English, French, a whole bunch of things all at once, and you can process a lot of information if you're not screaming at talkback radio about how they've changed the name of Havelock North, or like I'm going to try and stop calling Auckland for a start, because do you know who Auckland's named after?
Lord Auckland?
Yeah, a British governor of India who never came here. So why the fuck would we be giving him the honour of that when we can just give it its much better Maori name, Tamaki Makaurau? Yeah.
I just thought for the first time, when Ed Sheeran came to Dunedin, they changed the name of Dunedin. There it is there. I'll bring it up. To Dunedin. I wonder if anyone got upset about that.
Of course not.
This was a fantastic. Give DCC credit where credit's due. This was a brilliant marketing campaign. Ed Sheeran came here and played 3 gigs, 100,000 people through, and the sign out to the airport was lit up and it had that blue Ed in it. And so for the weekend he was here, it was they changed it to Dunedin, and it was brilliant. Of course, it got massive exposure all around the world. What's that one? Yeah, Dunedin. I wonder if people had a concern about that because the name of the city had been played with and it had changed slightly, and
and like the assumption of this is getting back to your original point, right? The assumption from these guys that their supporters have the moral flexibility, the mental plasticity of your average granite countertop is that you get to a certain age and you just can't process more information. And you're just like, what? Like, I remember having a conversation with my mother probably 5 years ago where she was having to go through some cultural sensitivity modules at work and stuff like that. And she was really put out, right? Because they were basically saying, hey, look, you've been mispronouncing this, that, and the other thing. And she was taking it as a personal attack. Like, I've been saying this wrong my whole life. How dare they? It's not that. It's not a personal accusation. It's a reflection of who lives here, and it's a reflection of the history of this place. You've got 2 names on that image there.
Yeah.
Because of the treaty. And sometimes, just sometimes, maybe the original Maori name for a place is a better name than the one that the colonial English decided.
I don't even think it's because of the treaty on some level, Chewy. Like, I was thinking about this just today. It wasn't to do with this because I've had a few MPs come back saying they'll come and talk to us on a Friday night. And I was just sitting, and like, I probably shouldn't say this publicly because it's not a trap or anything. But, should the right person get a hold of it, it'll be a prepped question. I want to say to some of these MPs, like to a David Seymour or a Chris Luxon, Chris Luxon especially, if you're a marketing guru, how would you market New Zealand to show the uniqueness of New Zealand? Like, what would you do in a marketing campaign to show that New Zealand is different from every other country? Like, what is it about New Zealand that makes us unique and special? And, he might go beaches and lakes and clean, and I'll go, yeah, but Switzerland. So there's lots of countries that can do that. What is it that is unique to New Zealand that you won't find anywhere else in the world like it is in New Zealand? Because I'm sure you all know there's really only one answer.
Yeah,
and that's,
absolutely.
That's the Māori culture. So when I say it's not necessarily about the treaty, I look at that and I think, much like you go through Quebec and they have signs in French and English, you go through New Zealand and they have signs in Māori and English. And so I'm not saying it's not about the treaty full stop, but I'm like, actually, this is Māori culture, Māori language is the one unique thing in New Zealand. Like, I've said this as a talkback host since the early aughts, and I've never, ever, ever, ever had someone tell me something else that is unique to New Zealand and New Zealand alone, other than the Māori language. Now, if you've got something, tell me. But if you're talking about, Christmas in the summertime, yeah, Australia, South Africa, rugby, same, England as well. Beaches and mountains and snow, well, every country in the world. You know what I mean? It's like this is a part, and this is why I've always said, even if you don't identify with the Māori culture at all, if you are part of New Zealand's story, you personally, then the Māori story is a part of your story. So
100%,
even if you don't want to acknowledge it, even if you want to push back from it, if you want to be a New Zealander, you kind of can't. And the sooner we all get to terms with that, the better we will be. Someone says flightless birds. I'll raise your flightless birds, David, and I'll say ostrich. Penguins. There you go. Yeah.
No, as someone that has travelled overseas a bit, it all comes back to that for me. I've travelled in countries where they're multilingual. The signs are multilingual. Finland has signs in Finnish and Sweden and sometimes Russian. And people in that country will shift between those languages depending on where in the country they are. Finland has a lot of mirrors with us, actually, because they were a country that was colonized. They were part of Sweden. They have an indigenous group of people, the Sami people. And the Finnish government is putting an enormous amount of effort into retaining that language because it is unique to them. You can look at Wales, you can look at Ireland, and the efforts that are going into retaining their language. I think Wales has an enormous amount mirrored with us.
Yeah, resurgence of
reclaiming their place names.
Yep.
And you'll see those on signs. And you know what? People don't immediately lose their mind and crash their cars into a field. It just doesn't happen. We're better than this.
Yeah.
We're better. How do New Zealanders go when they go to Bali? And it's like, oh, fuck, I don't recognize some of those letters. Insane. Do you want to have a crack at saying that?
No.
Because that's scary.
No. I know it finishes with gogokoch because I've heard it pronounced before. And let me say this: there are people who are actually having a crack at this. Look, birds and wetters and kiwis and stuff are unique to this country. I agree, but that's not what's going to be on a marketing campaign. Might be a part of it, but that's not going to be what's on a marketing campaign.
You look at any New Zealand company or anybody exporting a New Zealand product or brand throughout the world, and you'll get your answer.
Yeah,
it is Māori culture. You go overseas and you talk to people and you say, what do you know about New Zealand? They'll tell you the haka. They'll call it a Maori war dance, which is annoying, but that's what they know. That's what we're known for. And I see these stories about these meetings that the people that are meeting with national candidates about becoming the next government, and they're bringing up these culture war type issues. I immigrated from England 20 years ago, and I don't like that the Maori are getting everything. Well, Beryl from Suffolk, maybe you don't know enough about the country that you live in.
Just to reiterate that point that Christopher Hipkins made, Air New Zealand drops Kia ora trademark bid. How the fuck, Christopher Luxon, do you think that you could trademark the word kia ora?
Because he has zero understanding of what he's talking about. I mean, this is a man that says that he's learning Te Reo, and do you see anything? He doesn't do it. You don't see it.
I have to be fair, and I've made this criticism lots. Every time an interviewer goes, kia ora, Mr. Luxon, he goes, g'day. I've maybe seen him do it once or twice ever, but still only once or twice ever back. So here's the story that Hipkins was referencing. Air New Zealand has withdrawn its bid to trademark the logo for its in-flight magazine Kia ora following talks with Māori leaders. The airline came under fire from Māori intellectual property rights experts earlier this month for filing the application. Chief Executive Christopher Luxon, he's that guy that's in politics now, said after speaking with iwi leaders, the airline would no longer actively pursue the trademark and will urge the government to review the rules for trademarking words from the Māori language. Now, here's the last thing, before we move on. If I'm incorrect, and there is a lot more that is trademarkable or that you'd use in kind of marketing than that, like that's unique to New Zealand, then why the fuck did Christopher Luxon try and trademark a Māori word? Why didn't he try and trademark the word hello and make that their magazine? Why was it kia ora? I think that's obvious reasons. Hello. All right. Let's get on to it, because there's actually, I've got a little surprise for you at the end that I haven't publicised. People should stick around for this, but you'll enjoy this one as well, because it seems that you know, those woke tards at Fox News have gone full woke. Chewy, you know how we hate the woke. Sheesh, they've gone full woke. Fox News gets the full Bud Light treatment. Conservative media expresses outrage after Fox News trans policy leak. Now remember, this is Fox News, Tucker Carlson, people who have been going on and 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 on about sharing the right bathroom, about, you know, using pronouns. This is the hosts on Fox News. You know, I don't have to explain it to you, you know, correct? All right. There was an article which was based on a leak from an internal handbook that goes on to paint policies which comply with New York non-discrimination laws as part of a parcel of larger agenda, citing the alleged backlisting of pundit Matt Walsh and a 2022 news segment that admiringly covered a transgender teen in California. The leak to the signal comes as Fox News remains under fire from allies of Tucker Carlson over his firing from the network last month. One former producer for Carlson told the Signal that, quote, they, Fox, want you to think it's this place that supports traditional conservative values, but in reality, they're pushing this nonsense, just for our argument, is the trans agenda. They're pushing this nonsense behind the scenes. Conservative commentator Eric Erickson took note of one Fox boasting about having received a perfect score on the Human Rights Campaign Corporate Equality Index, commenting it's the same thing that Bud Light would have wanted. They go on to say they were the arbitrator of conservative politics for 2 decades, lamented Daniel Horowitz of The Blaze. His colleague Aaron McIntyre submitted that Fox got rid of Tucker so they could deliver more Caitlyn Jenner conservatism. They're as woke as any corporation they pretend to rail against. I personally know several employees, some very senior, who hate their local style, going along with far-left activists and their propaganda terms, claiming the Daily Caller's Jeffrey Ingersoll. Now, I've missed a part of this conversation, which I'm going to go and find, which is talking about exactly what they are now doing in the offices, which I'm going to go find, Chewy. But are you surprised that Fox News, perhaps on one level, here we go. According to the Signal, Fox News employees are allowed to use the bathroom that they align with their gender identity rather than their biological sex, and permitted to dress in alignment with their preferred gender. They must also be addressed by their preferred name and pronouns in the workplace. So that's what's happening inside Fox News, not necessarily what's happening on Fox News. In Fox News, it's happening. On Fox News, very different story. These woke tards. What do we think, Chewy? I mean, it's the end of the world. Fox has gone woke. What do you reckon?
I want to acknowledge Fox for doing the right thing. They're compelled to under law, but they're still doing it, and I think that's just the whole thing. It's culture war. That's what we've seen out of Fox all along. They're saying one thing, and the people that work there don't necessarily agree with it, but it's getting them viewers and it's getting them rage engagement, so they'll go for it.
They have lost half their audience since Tucker Carlson left. Like overall, not just Tucker's show, they've lost half their audience. I think. We've probably said this before about various right-wing political places in America, but this is probably the beginning of the end for Fox, because they've actually acknowledged, you can go and look it up, research it for yourself, that one of the reasons they hold audience, this is from within Fox News, is that their audience is too old to understand how to change the channel. Right? It's actually, I'm paraphrasing, but that has been said in meetings by Fox executives, that they've basically got them on a channel and they can't figure out how to go other places to find. And what's happening is that audience is dying, and the other part of the audience they've got, which were the Tucker Carlson, alt-right lunatics, are now bailing. So they've got an audience that's dying and an audience that's leaving, and it could very well be the beginning of the end of Fox News, Chewy.
Oh, well, I guess I just have to pour one out if it gets to that.
Yeah.
Nothing of value was lost.
As you said, Chewy, and as people in the chat are saying, good on them for doing the right thing. I agree. However, it's a little bit like when we talked about the other day, Stephen Crowder portraying and professing this family values thing, whilst it appears, allegedly, being an abuser and a bully behind the scenes. If on air... they're giving airtime to Trump and to his allies, and behind the scenes they're texting each other going, "This is terrible. We've got to stop this. I hate." But then they keep doing it. Then it needs to be talked about. If on the air they're having debates around bathrooms and pronouns and gender and all that kind of stuff, whereas when they go out to use the bathroom, they're possibly in there with a trans person, and there's no fuss made about that. It needs to be pointed out and called out for what it is. Hypocrisy of the highest order.
Yeah, 100%. I ideally hope that there's no one from that community working for Fox.
Yeah, that would be the other thing, though. You may not have a trans person in the bathroom with you because who would work there, you know? I mean, it'd probably be like a lefty working on the platform.
They do have Caitlyn Jenner on a lot. The most self-hating trans person on the planet.
Hey, to wrap up today's show, Chewy, I've got a bit of a present for you. In fact, I'll give you a chance. I'll give you a chance to respond first of all, because I know you were watching the stream last week with everybody else, all 17 million other people. But I played the launch of Ron DeSanctimonious's campaign on Twitter.
Oh, I loved it.
Fell over. I've got a little treat to play you in a second that ties into the back of that. But I saw you in the chat. Well, I didn't. I saw you when I replayed it, had a look back at it. What, do you have any thoughts you want to say about that?
Have you ever watched something happening live and just tasted the satisfaction?
I have.
God, it was delicious on so many levels. It was a delicious layer cake. I was hooting and hollering. It was amazing to have Elon fall flat on his face, to not hear from Ron DeSantis, to just see this massive event implode on itself. I bashed my head against the desk with the people that just seem to be there to suck Elon's cock.
Yeah, very much so.
Oh my God. Never simp for a billionaire, people. Jesus. I hope he sees your comment.
So, probably you've seen this, Joey. Probably most people have. But, love him or hate him, Donald Trump did something spectacular. Well, Donald Trump's people did something spectacular the day after that. They used AI voices to create another launch for Ron DeSantis's campaign. This is comedy gold, right up till the point that they then brought in Donald Trump to speak on this alleged call as well. You know, the thing about American comedy, and you'll appreciate this, Chewy, is quite a lot of the times they have to over-explain everything, where sometimes just leaving things at a certain point would be perfect. This kind of falls apart when the Donald Trump character comes in. But before that, this is gold. So what you're going to hear is Ron DeSantis, Elon Musk, George Soros is on the call, Dick Cheney, Adolf Hitler, the devil, and the FBI. This is all AI voices. So there's a conversation to be had about the quality of the AI here, but this is what Donald Trump put out the day after that debacle. All right? Have a listen to what he put out.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Ron DeSantis Twitter space.
Hello? Is my microphone working correctly?
George, can you just wait while we...
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can all hear you, George. Can you just hold on for a second?
Hilfa, I don't think they can hear me.
I can hear you fine, George. Just speak to the
I don't think George knows how to use Twitter.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Can I please make my big announcement now? Everyone just...
Hello?
Just shut up, George. Can somebody just mute George?
Dick, could you try not to cough on the...
Okay, so how are we going to take out Trump, you guys?
Guys from the FBI, this is not a private call. This is a public Twitter space. Everyone can listen in.
God damn it.
Anyway, guys, we invited everyone to this this Twitter space. So Governor Ron DeSantis...
That's an AI voice.
Everyone just shut the hell up so I can make my announcement, okay?
You go, girl.
Wait, the devil is gay?
So what? Everyone in this call is gay. I happen to know every single one of you has a secret gay lover hidden in your closet.
Führer, ich kann nicht zulassen, dass die Soldaten, die für Sie
Guys, can we please just calm down?
So anyway, guys, I just wanted to announce that I'm...
Okay, I can hear the governor very well.
Shut up. Would you please shut up already? I'm running for fucking president, okay?
Yeah. We kind of already knew about it.
Know, Governor.
Congratulations, Governor.
Well, that concludes our Twitter space for today. Thank you to all of our...
Hold your horses, Elon. The real president is going to say a few words. The devil, I'm going to kick your ass very soon. Hitler, you're already dead. Dick Cheney, sounds like you'll be joining Hitler very soon. Klaus Schwab and George Soros, I'm putting both your asses in jail. And Ron DeSanctimonious can kiss my big, beautiful 2024 presidential ass. Trump 2024, baby. Let's go.
As I said, it was very good until they brought his character in, and then it just lost a little bit. But Chewy, whoever is behind that, it's a brilliant piece of attack ad. It's funny, it's perfect. It's perfect until Trump comes in. Then it looks like Trump sucking his own dick again. But up until that point, it's pretty amazing.
Like he never stopped.
Yeah.
I want people to go out and just have a look for the weird artworks that people do of Trump. I saw that, this airbrushed AI art that everyone's doing of Trump the hero. I saw one the other day that was like, just declassified, this picture of Trump coming back from his combat mission to kill Osama bin Laden. And it's like you could ever fit that guy in a flight suit. Like, people craft these things. And I just don't know how they can sleep at night. It's horrific. Like, making Trump look sexy and tough. It's an old fat man with a comb over. Just amazing.
Elon and Trump. Well, that one is not bad.
Oh, if only.
The other thing about that call, though, about that piece of, I guess it's an attack ad, isn't it, is the scary accuracy of the AI art. I mean, the AI voices. It's all AI. It's all fake. They haven't chopped and changed. It's all AI. And whilst the cadence isn't quite correct in many of them, the actual, like, Elon sounds like Elon. It's pretty scary. Pretty scary.
Yeah, and I mean, the more somebody's on TV, the more they can sample the voice, and the better it gets. So if you can combine an AI trained voice with an impersonator, it is unbeatable. Yeah, this sort of shit. Trump the fucking weird cowboy. It's like the man's lived in New York City like his entire life. He's not the rugged outdoorsman you think he is. And when was the last time he was that size? Just ridiculous.
Scary.
Don't simp for billionaires, people. It makes you crazy.
Anything we want to get to in the chat before we head off for the night? It's like there's a lot going on in the political world, and I think what we've seen with the Labour Party conference over the weekend is that it's ramp up time. Like, it's ramp up time. Like, I imagine. I've been talking to a few people over the weekend about what we're doing with the show, and many of them are saying, what do you want to do internationally? You should get audience from national. I'm like, well, we've got an election this year. So I imagine we're going to be ramping up a lot of the local stuff in the next, it's probably 140 days to the election, give or take. And we don't ignore this stuff. I mean, I've got other things I was going to look at tonight from the international world, but they're not the priority. And I think the priority is going to be New Zealand stuff, and it's going to ramp up. And we're going to make sure that we're here to show you what's been said, to give you an analysis of what's been said, to show you what's been changed, National Party, for example, on their policies tonight, and to keep moving forward to election 2023.
Yeah.
So in saying all of that, anything we want to get to it in the chat there, Chewy, before we head off?
Not really. The chat's been great, but I think we've covered everything. I mean, as far as what I want to say to people about the election, hold your nose and sign up to everybody's mailing list. Work out what these guys are using for their messaging, what they're going to be talking to the general public about, what's important for this election, and go to their meetings.
Yeah.
Go to their meetings. Like, if you look at these pictures, like I saw one circulating around. Yes, it's New Zealand First. Yes, it's Blenheim, but it's a sea of grey hair. It's like, they have these meetings in the middle of the day where workers can't go to them. And we just vent on our podcast, and people just vent in social media. They don't care about that.
Yeah.
If you can go to a meeting and push back against some of this nonsense and go, hey, look, you're talking about average New Zealanders. I'm an average New Zealander. I'm a Pākehā. I'm a white New Zealander, and I support having more Te Reo in our society, as an example. This stuff does not work.
I didn't realise you were white. I don't see colour, Chewy.
just means you're blind.
Yeah, okay. And remember, the ramp up to this election as well is going to be, we'll have more as well. We'll definitely do things like watch along with debates, we'll have some fun. But mostly we want to just make sure that as much information is out there as possible, especially because at the moment there are those groups that are growing on the right, getting more voice and louder and starting to collaborate. I noticed the other day that, in fact, there's something I want to pull out from it, that, Sean Plunkett was doing a piece on the common room. So they're starting to cross root each other. Is that the right word? I don't know. To figure out, how to get more traction and more reach from the right. And I know that people love Bomber. I mean, I've always loved Bomber as a person and stuff, but we are the only people doing this on the left, right? And the more amplification we can get and the more reach we can get, the more we can do. It's as simple as this though, people, and remember this: if the left votes, the left wins. I mean, that's without question the situation. It's the left that chooses not to vote, and the right vote in bigger numbers, and that's what keeps it close. If the left votes, the left wins. There's possibly another one of those T-shirts we've been talking about.
It's that classic thing, right? I think we can all think of people that go, oh, I don't vote because I don't see the point. My vote doesn't matter. It's going to be an election like the next one where it's going to be so close that everybody's vote does count.
Yeah.
And you can't look at what Labour and the Greens think New Zealand's future is and what National Act's version of New Zealand's future is. One of them I find personally quite scary.
Yeah.
So talk to your people that don't vote. Talk to your friends. Create an activist.
I'm going to sneeze.
Oh, it's me, Mario.
All right. So in saying that, and look, not to beat a dead horse, but the reality is, you guys help us do this. We help get stuff done. We put things out there. Yep, I'm going to jot that down. If the left vote, the left wins. It could be one of these T-shirts. I'm actively looking at doing some T-shirt stuff. If the left votes, the left wins. And I'll who will I credit that to? Adolf Hitler. ADOLF Hitler. Gandhi. Thank you for being a part of what we do. Patrons, love having you on board. If you want to help us and support us in what we're doing financially, patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Also very, very, very keen to try and keep and get our audio podcast to the top of the Apple charts. We hover in the top 10. The highest we've got to at the moment is number 3. You could easily say we're the number 1 independent podcast, news commentary podcast in New Zealand, because the only other New Zealand one that tends to be typically is ahead of us. Generally, it does go up and down a little bit, but is Leighton Smith, obviously bankrolled by NZME and News Talk ZB. So we are absolutely the number 1 independent news commentary podcast in New Zealand, the New Zealand one. In fact, if we jump one more place, we'll be the number 1 independent. We won't even have to say New Zealand one, because at number 3 in the charts, that will put us as the number 1 independent. And if we get up those charts, I'm just being honest with you, that helps us get guests. So as much as you can, support us in a myriad of ways. Obviously, watching what we do, sharing what we do, going in and subscribing to the audio podcast, preferably on Apple, if you've got an option to choose. And also then sharing our stuff around, or of course the Patreon. There's lots of ways you can do it. And as we've said right from the start, and be very honest and open and honest with you, as much as you help us grow and get bigger and get more reach, that gives us the opportunity to speak to more people and get bigger and better guests and provide a better product for you. It's cyclical. It's a symbiotic relationship, Chewy.
Oh, like parasite, like a tapeworm.
Bliss. All right, I think we're done. Thank you. Let me just also mention, I mentioned it before, Peter Blakely. Peter Blakely has also become a patron, but he's not on the wall yet. So we'll just mention him verbally tonight, and I'll do my best to get you on the wall for tomorrow, Peter. Good to have you on board. All right, guys. Love you to bits. I apologize about the technical glitches this evening, I should say. Completely 100% my fault. I'm a fucking moron. But as you all know, I like to be the dumbest person in the room, and tonight it was proven accurate. Be safe. Harsh. Be well. And we'll catch you all tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition. Hooroo team.
Cheers, folks.